they sinned, they felt that they were full of shame and they knew they were naked. But when this man spent time with Jesus, it says that they found him fully clothed again. You know, God, when you spend time with Jesus, he fully clothes you again in your right mind. He fully clothes you again in righteousness. He fully clothes you again in his grace. He fully clothes you again in that thing that you felt like you were naked and missing. God is the thing that can complete you again and make you feel full and whole and covered. And I think that we need to spend some time with Jesus tonight. Like that man, maybe even on our knees, confessing Jesus as Lord, asking him, set me free, finally, once and for all. And I just want to tell a story to you real quick before I give it over to the band. You know, not that long ago, maybe within the last year, I've been developing a relationship with one of my good pastor friends, and he shared a story with me when we went out to coffee, and it wrecked me. And I've shared it once before, but I think it was in the main services, but I want to share it with you tonight. And it was that, see, in Palm Springs, there's this like plague of depression and anxiety that's flooding through the desert area of Palm Springs in Indio. And it said that there was this young girl that decided that she didn't want to live anymore, that she wanted to take her own life. She wanted to kill herself. And so she actually tried to kill herself, and she put herself in a coma. And they rushed her to the hospital, and her older brother was actually a youth leader in the ministry of my friend's church. And he called up my buddy Billy, and he said, hey, Billy, you know, I really need some community. I need some people to come down to the hospital and pray with me to see that my sister would come out of the coma. She had severe anxiety and depression, and she let the lies and the war that was in her mind begin to twist her thoughts, and she thought it'd be better that she just took her own life. And so will you just get a couple guys, maybe even just you and your wife if you can't get anybody else? I know it's a Friday night and you guys probably have other things to do, but I really need some people to come down to the church or the hospital and pray. And so he said, all right, I'll see what I can do. 150 people showed up at the hospital, and they were students. Students showed up at the hospital on a Friday night when they could have been anywhere else, and they decided that they were going to stand outside the hospital and they were going to pray. And and all of a sudden they get there and they look to Billy, and Billy's like, wait, I'm supposed to lead this thing, huh? And so Billy's like, all right, we're just going to pull out an acoustic guitar. You play guitar, right? And he looks at this girl, and she's like, yeah, I can play guitar. He's like, and you could sing, right? And he's like, yeah, I can kind of sing. And he's like, cool. We're just going to worship outside the hospital, and we're just gonna make a statement that we're here. It says that they started worshiping outside the hospital. And I love what happened was that at first everybody was pushing them away, and they were saying, what are you doing? Why are you worshiping outside the hospital? And people were judging them. And then eventually you started seeing that there was windows that were beginning to open up on the levels of the hospital, and nurses were opening up the windows because they wanted the worship to come into the hospital rooms. And you started seeing people that were crippled in bed were starting to try and crawl over to the windows so they could listen to the worship outside. And it said that people that were coming in, this was outside of the emergency room, and people that were coming in from car accidents, and people whose kids were also dealing with drugs and other things, were passing through the center of these people worshiping, and they were being healed by the time they stepped through the other side of the circle. And that Jesus showed up outside this hospital, and they said, you know what, we didn't hear anything about our sister, and so you know what, we're going to come back next week. And they said, all right. So they came back next week, and next week they didn't have 150, they had 300. And this time when they had 300, they had doctors that were coming out with sterile hands. And they're saying, can you pray for me before I go into surgery right now? I need you to pray for me. Will you just pray for me? Because we want to see if this really works. And doctors were coming outside, and they were getting laid hands on, and they were getting prayed for and coming back in. And there was people leaving the hospital that were in a tragic accident, car accident, and they were walking out of that place walking the very same night. And there was people that had drug addictions, and they were walking up, and they're just throwing their drugs out there, say, you know what, I don't even want to do this anymore. And they throw it out, and they feel that the presence of God was so evident there. And Billy just started preaching, and they've been coming back. They were going there for months, and they went every Friday night, and the group began to grow and grow. All along, his sister, the youth leader, never got out of the coma. And all along, Billy's thinking, wow, God, how is all these people being touched right now and healed, but yet this one up here, she's still not getting out of the coma. And he just didn't know how to really process through that. But then God was speaking to him, and he was saying, but look at all these other people that have been reached. And that what the enemy turned around to harm, God turned around for good. And God was able to reach a whole city. And this man in the story, it says that he ran to Jesus and said, can I go with you? I had an encounter with you, God, and you set me free, and I want to go with you and to preach to the other cities. He said, no, I want you to go back to the ones that have put you in chains. I want you to tell them what I've done for them, and I want you to proclaim the message and the good news. But he didn't commission him until he had spent time with him. That's the difference. Many of you tonight will be set free from things, but it's going to require that you spend time with Jesus tonight and continue to spend time with Jesus when you come down the mountain and that youth group every week, okay? That the world behind you and the cross before you, you will continue to walk this thing out with Jesus, spending time with him, and eventually God will release you to go back to the ones who have kept you in chains, the ones who have been doing wrong to you, the ones that need to be set free, because you are in their sphere of influence. It's going to require that you can reach them. I can't reach the people who have put you in chains. I can't reach the people who have done wrong to you, but you can. And God wants to commission you to reach those people. Mikey, God wants to reach you and use you to reach the people that only you can reach in France. Man, God wants to be able to reach you in your cities. He wants to reach you in your school districts. God wants you to reach your families, but you got to spend time with Jesus. Are you going to shout me down, or are you going to stand to your feet right now? Stand to your feet, because it's what you believe in, that you're not going to bow down, that you're going to stand up to your feet and believe that God is able to do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine, according to the power that is at work within us. Do you believe it?